Director of Roca, Western Mass, with sites in Springfield and Holyoke. To Roca, no young person is a lost cause, even if they've lost all the trust and hope for the future. We're moving the needle on urban violence by relentlessly finding and focusing on the traumatized 17 to 24-year-olds living at the center of it. Our young people can count on us to keep showing up even when they fail. We never give up. This relentlessness is how we build trust over time and give our young people the tools and support to change the trajectory of their lives. I want to personally say thank you to members of my managing board and members of the Teach for America innovation team for helping me put together a robust webinar series. I'm so proud of their work, and it's been a privilege to work with this dynamic group. Thank you for joining us on our first ever spring webinar series. It is our hope that you will continue to join us throughout the next 3 months as we explore not only tonight's topic, but also the school to prison pipeline and urban violence within our community. Tonight's topic is a multi-agency approach to diversity, equity, and inclusion work in our community. We have a great group of panelists tonight. Mr. James Coppage is the co-creator of the Voice Workshop, mentor and youth leader. Mr. Coppage serves as a minister and youth mentor leader of the Young Joshua Ministry at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Springfield, Mass. He launched the Voice of the Barbershop, which brought young men of color together, men of excellence in partnership with the Renaissance School in Springfield, Mass, to share their personal and collective experiences. Miss Leslie Key is an enthusiastic early childhood educator and a native of Springfield, Mass. She has studied at Gordon College, complementing her Bachelor's of Science in Early Childhood Education and Psychology. Her passion lies within education reform, and she has been working within the community as well as serving our communities to inspire and instill hope in the young leaders today. Sarah Mixter has been working as a mental health clinician in Springfield for the last 15 years. Her work is focused on trauma symptom presentations in adolescents and young adults and their interface with systems such as DYS and the school system. She is proud to serve as a member of BHN's Social Justice Coalition that is committed to dismantling the structural inequities within the organization and is excited to have just started a new position as a coordinator working directly with BHN's Social Justice Director. Mr. Brian Mitchell is a native of Springfield, Massachusetts, who has a passion to see men strengthen and rejoin with their families. He has been a leader in the community for over 20 years in places such as Dunbar Community Center and Northern Educational Services. Brian has been awarded the Beacon of the Community Award and the Key Player Award. Not only does he fight for those in his community, but he also fights and endlessly loves his 2 children and wife. Brian lives unselfishly for those around him to impact change. Miss Natasha Mitchell has been an activist and community leader throughout Western Massachusetts for the past 26 years. Her passion is to empower all people to impact change within the lives of those individuals that they serve daily. Natasha has worked tirelessly at tearing down the construct of institutional racism while simultaneously combating the self-destructive behavioral patterns that plague our inner city communities. She is the founder and CEO of Potter's Wheel Community Services. Miss Lakeisha Coppage is the humble founder and principal of Coppage Consulting. Born and raised in Springfield, Mass, Lakeisha is a passionate and committed contributor to her community, early education, and DEI-infused work. As founder of Coppage Consulting, she's worked with organizations such as YWCA of Western Mass, SEIU Education and Support Fund, and Collaborative Resolutions Group as a retained trainer, Square One, CISA, and Springfield City Library. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and without further delay, I give you back to Ms. Lakeisha.
Good evening, everyone. Chris, thank you for that great introduction. Panelists, thank you for joining us. Community, thank you for lending your ear to this very important topic tonight. In brief, I will go through the multi-organizational approach of Roca and some of the amazing work that we're doing in the community. For those who aren't familiar with Roca's mission, it is to be a relentless force in distributing disrupting incarceration, poverty, and racism. We do that in many ways by engaging our adults, young adults, police, and systems at the center of this urban violence. By building relationships to address trauma, we want to find hope and drive change. And we hope that someone on this series tonight will join forces with us. We do this in many ways. However, keeping equity at the forefront and at the center is important to breaking down systems of oppression, social oppression, and systemic racism. Roca puts at the forefront how we combat gun violence, but we do that in various ways to break down disparities and barriers through breaking down economic disparities and all level of inequities that we see our young people in our communities facing. We hope that today you will find a way in which to insert yourself in this work and help us to keep equity at the forefront. Again, equity in the center is very important. We do this by focusing on proactivity, counteracting race inequities inside and outside of the organization. It's not just what we do inside, it's about the contributing factors from the outside in as well. We require this by adapting in a transformational, and I'll add, a transparent approach to impact behaviors and mindsets in our programs, in our practices, and in our processes. Mr. Ronald states in his book, Adaptive Leadership, that adaptive challenges can only be addressed through changes in people's priorities, behaviors, habits. We want to see these changes made through progress that's required, that goes beyond any authoritative expertise, to mobilize and discover by shedding certain entrenched ways, tolerating losses, and generating the new capacity to thrive anew. How many of you can say that these are efforts in which you focus on and you make a daily commitment to combat in your daily lives? Feel free to use your reaction buttons. Show us that the information that we're sharing is resonating with you. And you support this move forward by Roca and some of our partner agencies, and you as an individual. Thank you. I see some of you putting your hand up and celebrating keeping equity in the center. Thank you. We do this additionally by representation. You'll see on the slide currently that our young people by each site, not just in Western Mass, even as far as Baltimore, we have large population of BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And when we show up for our people, through our young people and our families, through representation, we're able to meet the needs, understand what's going on within our communities. We're not just creating change without asking what the needs are. We're being very intentional to show up in our respective places. And we're very intentional with being transparent about who we serve, how we serve, where we serve, and the needs of the organization to maximize its impact. Excuse me. Additionally, we talked about representation matters. When we're able to put someone that looks like our youth in front of them with lived experiences, that says, listen, I've been there before, or I know what you're going through in a certain sense, the impact is greater. It allows our youth to say, I'm not in this alone. It opens up the doors and the windows of communication to say, we're in this together. So it's Roca's intent to make sure that we are diversifying our staff to meet the needs of our community is at the forefront of our equity mission and vision. We do this in addition to engaging our institutions and our systems. We want to change the conditions that hold problems in place. We do that by steps that we take and the tools that we use. We analyze systems for their most impactful parts. We create peaceful peacemaking circles for mutual understanding. We do this, all of these things, by strengthening relationships and partnerships. We talk about and put at the forefront that we cannot do this alone. Those partnerships with various agencies and institutions and individuals is why this work continues and why we continue to expand this work. Alone, we cannot do this work. We need your support. How many of you are willing to step up and volunteer and join us in this charge? Feel free to use the chat box. Talk to us today. Let us know how you want to be involved and how we can get you involved to continue to move the needle on this amazing and necessary work in our community around diversity, equity, inclusion, and just broadening your understanding of what Roca does and how we can actually get this work done together. Those institutions, systems, and individuals, please feel free to add your information in the chat box. Talk to us today. Again, we do this. This is one of my favorites. Awake to woke to work. I asked Chris, can I borrow this? And, you know, of course I can, it's Roca's, but I can borrow it in the way in which I do the work in this community, how I show up. How do I build a race equity culture in my personal and professional life? It's across the spectrum of providers and educators and business owners. We do this in several ways in which we build strategic elements that build this momentum. Through our senior management, our board of directors, join a board in your community, our community participants, learning the environment and the culture to be intentional. Data is important. I'm not a huge data person in regards to compiling data, but data is very important to show where we are, how much more work needs to be done, and where do we fill those gaps. Do it by being awake to woke to work. Roca's continued commitment to equity work, again, is by way of the awake to work to woke, and building that race equity cultural framework. We're also supported by our champion board, managing board, and across the spectrum. We've created DEI subcommittee groups. We are continuing to expound on this work with your help. And with the commitment of those board members and the staff, updating our mission, our strategic planning, again, being transparent in our data. We want to make sure that we're meeting the need and not just making things up as we move along because it's trendy. No, very intentional work that we're doing, and we want you to be a part of it. We want to clarify that work, the why, the what, the how, the who, and that's you. And we do that through continued training and learning that is currently being distributed through the organization in our leadership and management learning series. So this doesn't stop here. This is the first of three series, webinar series. We're starting with DEI because we believe that equity is important and must be the guiding force to the rest of our work. And we ask you to join us for our next one, titled The School to Prison Pipeline. It's scheduled for May 19th from 6 to 7:30. We're hoping that you'll come in and join in the conversation, bring a friend, share the event, and continue to do the outstanding work that you're doing in this community. Number one, by showing up, showing out, and making sure you're intentional with all of the work that you're doing. So I thank you, those who are on this call, those who will watch this, the recording, to our partners, supporters, and we ask you to dare to hope with us. We are located in many areas of Western Mass and as far as Baltimore, and we ask you, wherever you are, to join in our efforts and lend your voice to this impactful work for yourselves and for our community. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking the time to listen and contribute to this mission of Roca.
So thank you, Lakeisha. That was phenomenal. Thank you for just an overview. And that's just one overview of one dynamic that Roca is doing. Now, this agency is doing so many other things. If you ask Chris, wow. And so that's where we like to start. We like to start that this is many parts of a building block. And that's why you're here. I said earlier to the team, communication, dialogue is the key. So right now we're gonna have a communication, dialogue, and discussion. Time to enjoy the panelists, but please join in with questions. We have some great leaders that are helping us man the questions and all that stuff, so we need you to ask them. So I'm gonna start with our first question to Sarah Mixter. Sarah, in what areas do you see DEI, diversity, equity work currently being implemented and impacting change within our community?
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.
Off and making me go first.
It's all right.
And welcome everyone. I did want to mention straight off that when I saw the list of events and that I was speaking first, my immediate response was, why is the white lady talking first when we have such an amazing panel ahead of us? And so my primary goal here is to say a few words and then be able to listen to the kinds of ways that people have been impacting this community. I think as a white woman, I've been working for 15 years in a mental health agency, BHN. I'm not here to speak about exactly BHN's contributions, but more about what I have observed and experienced over the past 15 years. And I've seen, a small diversity committee move to a social justice group, and then move to a program director, which is a paid position. And then my excitement of just in the last couple of weeks, I'm able to be a social justice coordinator under our program director. And just that movement alone has been exciting to watch. I think that we're aware of the health disparities in our healthcare system and in access to healthcare. And I feel as a supervisor and as a clinician that when you're working in Springfield and your clinicians are predominantly white and your clients are predominantly young people of color, that working on a racially equitable organization is critical, absolutely critical. And the ways I think that we should be doing that is through education, self-reflection, and dialogue. And I think that I particularly have a passion for talking to the other white people in the organization and helping them with ways to move from any feelings of guilt to responsibility. That we want to be engaged in this conversation. We are critical to any of this work. And the best way to do that is to listen and ask questions. And so with that, I will hand it off to our next facilitator.
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for your honesty and transparency. Earlier with a discussion with Sarah, that word sometimes becomes difficult, white, especially at this time in our nation. It's so divided that we can't even say, hey, this is my social location. We need to start using these words and using them real and understanding where we can go next from there. We don't stay there. I think Lakeisha always says that this is a strength-based model. We go from our strength. And so if Sarah can use her whiteness to make change because all questions aren't my questions. Some questions need to be asked by Sarah or Chris. And so the reality of it is, for change to happen, we need allies. And allies standing and asking questions. So moving on to our next powerful speaker, is going to be James. James, where do you see some of these inequities happening in our community?
I see several inequities in our community, unfortunately, and one of the few that stands out for me is the lack of resources for our youth. Growing up in Springfield all my life, there was always something to do growing up. There was always a park to go to, a community center, and after-school programs. Even the neighborhoods in our community would put something on for the youth, and that's just not the case nowadays. Which is why my wife and I brought forth the Voice Initiative, and Voice stands for voicing our individual collective experiences. And we did that with the mindset of allowing the men of color, Black and brown men, to come together with the barbershop atmosphere, because the barbershop within our community is vital, because it stands as, I like to say, the Black man's country club, because it's a place where we can come together and be our authentic selves without any judgment. Also not being concerned that our reality may offend someone. And so we wanted to allow that to give that voice to the young people that may not have a voice. And with that being said, what is present in our neighborhoods and community is that on every corner, you see a gas station or a bodega that's offering fast food. And so that's not to mention the actual fast food that's in our community. So when you couple that with not giving our youth something to be active and allow them to be youth and to keep throwing unhealthy food, then you become a health issue with our youth. And so if we as a village can come together and as a village, and then we can help raise our children. Also the lack of urgency to really beautify our community. There's so many abandoned buildings and vacant lots within the community. And when you leave that unchecked, what happens is that begins to identify our community. When you think of the Black community, so to speak, then you identify with being run down in abandoned buildings. And so it's hard to encourage someone to embrace their community when everything that's on their mind is, I can't wait to leave my community. And so if we can go back and beautify, have pride in our community and help build it up and give our children the voice that they need to be, and allow them to be youth, to be children, and to make sure that their health is at the forefront. I think that would be something that we can change the inequities within our community.
Thank you so much, James. What stuck with me is our reality. I can never be a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to hear that. And we have to hear that reality needs to come from a Black man,
Mm-hmm.
and Latino man, an Asian man.
Yes.
Has to come from there, and we have to respect that. A lot of times we want to change it to make it ours. It can't be. It has to be James's reality.
Right.
So thank you. That's real. It's just what it is what it is. Thank you, and I'm going to go on to the next question. Brian, thank you for joining us. In what ways have you implemented diversity equity work in the Greater Springfield area?
Well, first and foremost, thank you, you all for having me. Thank you, Roca. All who are on, who are in attendance, thank you for tuning in to just get a part of this work. But personally, one of the things that I do as a business owner, so I own a construction company, Kingdom Building and Contracting. One of the things that we see in our community is a lack of job opportunities for Black and brown men, not just men, but men and women. So one of the things that we offer as a business, as a company, is we offer job opportunities to those who would otherwise not be able to find them, right? There's always the unions that are out there, but realistically, when it comes to those union initiation fees, a lot of our people are not able to come up with that money to be a part of that opportunity. So we bring them in and we try and get them trained. And it's not just our particular company, but we also work with other tradesmen and women and other businesses who offer these same opportunities. They want to get people trained. They want to get them to work because we need our people. When I call a plumber, we need our people to be the plumbers. We need to have these opportunities all across the board for all people. So that's one of the ways in which we are able to offer these opportunities in terms of equity in the community. Another thing that I do, another organization that I work with is C4RJ. It's basically Communities for Restorative Justice. And what that agency is, or I want to call it a movement because it really is a movement. What they're doing is on a micro level, is micro level criminal justice reform. So when individuals are caught with, whatever particular crime is, the C4RJ, they get them in and they work with district attorneys in various communities throughout Massachusetts. They get them in and they don't put them, we talked a lot, I know Lakeisha in the beginning talked about that prisoner pipeline. And again, I say stay tuned because that's coming and I want you all to be a part of that as well. But instead of putting these young people through the system, they offer them opportunity to reconcile, so you have these responsible parties of particular crimes or whatever it is, and these impacted parties. It's like a form of reconciliation whereby we can also not just build the individual, but build community. And so that's one of the things that we do as well to just, again, realistically, when you look at the history of incarceration and you look at the history of, or the stats, what you will find is that there's a disproportionate number of Black and brown people who are incarcerated across the span as opposed to our white counterparts. So that's one of the things, and I appreciate that program. It's an awesome movement. Another thing that I do is I myself try to offer opportunities. There was an incident where, my wife and I, we were selling a home, and I had 4 young Black and Latino brothers. The oldest was 16. We get there and we're getting ready to sell the property, and they had broken into the property, and I get into the house, and of course they're just sitting there. They're not vandalizing, and I was grateful, but they're in the house and they're kind of like smoking weed and carrying on. And I had an opportunity. I could have called the police on them. I could have done so many other things. But I had an opportunity to sit and talk with those young brothers because I remember where I used to be. I remember those same things that I used to do. It was very, very similar, if not the same. So I offered them, rather than call the police, I offered them grace, which was also offered to me in my life by God. And so I'm grateful for that. Another thing that I do, I work with Pottersville Community Services, of which Natasha, my wife, has founded. I am a co-facilitator with her. And what we do within that organization is we go into the public schools, we go into the charter schools, we go into the colleges, and we educate the students, we educate the administration and the educators. If you were going to the average school on an average day, now that schools are open, what you would find is that a lot of the educators don't really look like the students that they serve. And so what we want to do is provide that element of cultural humility, whereby teachers, staff, administration can understand where these young people are coming from. The kid is sleeping in class. It's not because he doesn't want to do the work. He hasn't eaten in 2 days. You understand? So it's those kind of things that we want to go into communities and offer. But one of the things that we realize is that, when we talk about anti-racism or racism, racism is not a person, right? It's policy. And so one of the things that we also do into the educators that we serve is we push for people to try and get and make impact in policy. So much so that we have one of the schools that we serve, one of the teachers is running for office now in our great city of Springfield, Mass, because that individual wants to impact change by and large because of the impact that we were able to make with those schools. So we're just grateful. Those are among the other things that I do that we do. That's just a quick synopsis of what I'm doing personally to implement the.
I don't know if it's me. Brian's sound seemed to have gone. Can you guys hear myself?
Yes.
Okay, thumbs up. Thank you, Brian. And all I heard was community building, community changing, groundwork. I think some people heard a little blip of what Tyler Perry said. Get the feet off the ground, right? People need shoes. They need help. They need support. And it doesn't work if we're not supporting our community. Thank you for sharing that. Leslie, in your opinion, what are some identifiable challenges that come with diversity, equity, and inclusion work?
Hi, I thank you for including me among this great group of panelists. So one of the most identifiable challenges that I definitely have faced, but also know of with talking with others within the community, begins with conversation and having the right conversations. So like this platform that we have right here, it's a great start to addressing the conversation with the right motives and intent. So I imagine everyone's heard the saying that some people listen with the intent to respond versus some people listening with the intent to understand. And we need to come to a place where we're always listening and trying to understand, understanding that we're not always right, and also understanding that there are different perspectives and views. The conversations that we have, they need to foster openness and empathy. They need to, and I'm going to echo what Lakeisha had said about having those lived experiences and talking about them. We need more conversations with individuals like that, that open our eyes and open our ears, open our hearts to what is actually happening and what needs to be done to include people, to not feel like it's not diverse or there is no level of equity, but that they're feeling included in everything. It's a matter of seeing the differences, talking about differences, and the level of respect that should be met in every point of the conversations that we have. For me, I'm a toddler teacher, so when I'm going into the classroom, I have to think very strategically how I'm going to address the kids and my planning and how I set up the environment for those kids. And one thing that my corporation pushes for is mirrors and windows, in the sense that what we are portraying in our classroom has to be inclusive. It has to be diverse. It has to show all walks of life, no matter whether I know about the culture specifically, I still am presenting that to the community that I'm serving. And so when we're taking our stance and when we are talking about what we are going to do to make a change, are we practicing what we preach? Are we showing those that are invited into these conversations what exactly we would like to see? And then on the other side of that is the windows. We can't change what the nature that we look at outside of our windows. We cannot alter that. What we can do is be open to learning from those who don't look like us, those who don't share the exact same belief as us, but we are inviting them into these conversations in a way that is very open and helping them to understand, hey, I've had some similar experiences to you. I may not believe the same things as you, but I want to make this work. So addressing the conversations that way is one of, I think, the top challenges that we see. And it's also great to have our diverse leadership, but that's just a start. That's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is not having to see color blindness, because we can say that and be very passive and being, oh, I don't see color. That's not our goal. That's not the understanding that is to be had. So making sure that we're being conscious about the intent in which we're having the conversations to then make an impact and systemic changes.
So can we say that our young person dropped the mic? She dropped the mic. All right, drop the mic. So I'm gonna steal it. Mirrors and windows. I'm stealing it because it was awesome and it's true. And it's true. And so thank you, Leslie. And that was great. Really ground what we can do right here, right now. You know, so thank you for your voice. That was amazing. Wow. That's all I can. Sometimes you just gotta say wow. Yeah, right? Yeah, sometimes you just gotta say wow. So, but never last and never least is our own Lakeisha. So Lakeisha, how do you see yourself self-influencing change? How do you see yourself?
I see myself, and I am very intentional with influencing change. I'll first start with through relationship building, mentorship, personal and professional development, and community engagement. We at Coppage Consultant consider the work that we're doing not just work, it's passion. It's driven by the need for systemic change. We value working within all sectors and industries to influence this change. And we can't do it by working in silos, which is why we're here today sharing our experiences, right? A part of our desire and mission is to foster educational awareness, a way to embrace individual experiences and their ability to influence collective impact, while uplifting through a humble approach of providing strategic planning, support, and establishing cultural fluency to enhance togetherness and belonging. Second, openness, right? We must learn from each other in various spaces, sharing those lived experiences. We're different, yet often collective in the impact we bring about a unified desire for tangible systemic change. I could go on, but I'll close with, I see myself influencing change through the intentional expanded certification program that I'm offering within Coppage Consultants. Remember, it's about the work we do individually and collectively. And we're doing this by making a footprint that carries over for more to explore about humanity. Appreciation for cultural differences and perspectives, developing the language we use to grow, connections through the value of genuineness, affirming words to see the story of self and others, removing the need for the imposter syndrome, and then delivering a level of authenticity through what we say, what we do, how we grow, and how we remain accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lakeisha ends us so well, because I resonate, I feel it, the passion, the love, the footprint. That's the word right there, the footprint. Thank you. And you have made a footprint. I want to congratulate you right there. You have made a footprint on my life and so many others.
And you too.
Go ahead.
Potter's wheel.
I love you. I do. So you don't want me to say something, but Ryan said it. But I will tell you the background. Sometimes spiritually we don't listen to our inner voice, and for me it's God, but for others it's different things. And I had to listen and say, I needed to make this real for others. Because all these years working in community centers, doing here, it didn't feel like I was moving ahead. It felt like I was staying in this cycle. And I think that you said it, Brian said it, Lakeisha said silos, I think it was, right? Or Brian, but one of y'all. And Chris always says that. And it's time for us to break out of the silos, but most people don't want us to. And part of what Potter's Wheel does is breaking out of these silos. Don't put me in a box, I'm gonna break the box. So here we go. Yeah, let's go for that ride. And so now we're gonna introduce other people into this conversation. We have a great team behind that you're not really knowing about, but they have helped with support, technology, putting this webinar together and loving and supporting. So I'm gonna give the opportunity for anyone that would like to jump in at this point. In what practical steps can individuals make to get involved in social justice work? I'm gonna say it again. What practical steps can individuals make to get involved in social justice work? Anyone jump in there?
Well, I'll jump in. I have no problems jumping in. You're welcome. So I think one of, you said it, you hit it right on the head, Natasha, and I've said it. I've spent the last 8 of my 10 years here at Roca really focusing on the criminal justice partnerships. And then, but while doing that and trying to really work and hone in on the systems that our young people are involved in, you kind of neglect the community aspect of that. So in the last 2 years, especially under our gun violence coalition and our Safe Successful Youth Initiative coalition, I said, I'm gonna spend the next 10 years bringing in the community. So I think being willing, a willing partner in our community and reaching out to Black or Brown led organizations is a big piece of that. And so having done that just in the last month, I have to tell you, it's been fruitful for me just because, a couple weekends ago, we were out giving, in the community with more, Juanita Batchelor, who's a huge a huge piece of our community work that we're doing with bereavement, and you know, we're losing young people to gun violence, Black and brown young men and women who to gun violence, and this community needs people in our community that, you know, Black, brown, white, you know, any Asian, whatever it is, to come together and say, you know, we're a community and it doesn't matter at this point. So, but also saying, how can I help and what can I do? So I think that's my mission, is going out and doing a listening series. I don't need to talk, I need to listen. And especially, you know, being a white woman who's leading an organization, who's you know, an organization that serves Black and brown young men and women. So so I'm open to, you tell me who I need to meet with, and I want to meet, and I want to be out there, and I want to listen. So thank you.
Thank you for your transparency, Chris. That's where it starts, right? I want to make a change, and it starts with us listening. I know there's other voices out there, so come on in. Oh, James, I think you're speaking. I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're muted.
Gotta unmute myself. I think one word that me and my wife this year said that's gonna be our anthem, our word, and that is to be intentional. Be intentional on how and where you spend your time within your community. Join community boards, support those who are doing positive things in your community, and be intentional on changing your neighborhood and your community into a village, so that we can come together and help raise our children and help make sure they got the proper resources. So I would say that in order to help is to be intentional on what you do, and know that for some of us on this panel, we are the voices of those that don't have a voice. Me being a minister, one thing that I've learned that helps out a lot is to speak to people and not preach to people. Understand that you have a ministry, a gift, and that you can really, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So if we can be intentional on encouraging our people in our community, then not look at their reality, look at the surrounding sounds of surrounding areas and let that get them down, but that's an opportunity for them to step up and create change. So I would say just be intentional.
Thank you. That's awesome. It's true. We have to start with doing something and doing something well. So thank you. Tatiana, Ellie.
Hi, happy to hop in here. First, just welcome everyone, and thank you all the panelists for your truly powerful and inspirational words. I have loved just sitting on the back end listening. I'm literally taking notes. But James, what you just said about being intentional really stuck with me. Something I realized when I was teaching with Teach for America as a core member, is that systemic racism and racial policies are a vast, huge, multifaceted problem like we need to fix. And it can almost feel quite paralyzing when you look at the large issue and think, well, how me, one person, how am I supposed to fix all of this? And I'm so small, this problem's so big, and there's so many people that are going to work against me and my students and their community. And you can feel fear and you can feel paralyzed. But James, your word of like intention is something I realized as an educator is myself, my individual power. I have a niche in this large issue. I'm one slice, but that is my niche. And that is where I can drive change and make impact. And someone else has another niche, and another person has another niche, and my students have their own niches. And if we continue to work together collectively, we will make change. You may not see it tomorrow, you may not see it the next day, but you have a power and you have a certain reason and a certain way to make change. And so don't feel paralyzed, find your niche and drive towards it. Lean in as strong as you can and evolve it as much as you can, and be as intentional where you know you have the best power to make change. And that's how I think individuals can really step up, and that will look wildly different for everyone, and that is okay and also beautiful. And so panelists, like, you've gotten me so inspired. I'm going to stop because I want to keep hearing from you all, truly.
Ellie, thank you for your energy and your love. I love it. I love the niche too. And so thank you. Thank you. Because sometimes the turnaround of knowing there's some kind of impact is so long sometimes that it felt good to hear that, hear your energy, hear what you're doing, as well as you're feeling inspired. And you're inspiring me as well. Tatiana, I'm gonna roll right to you.
I feel like Ellie took, I mean, how do I follow that? Jeez, I mean, she spoke exactly about collective impact. And, you know, I'm sitting here like, oh my God, what do I say now after all of these amazing panelists, after Ellie just put that so eloquently. And I think for me, it's like literally what Ellie said in action, collective impact. Looking at these panelists right now, like we're doing that thing. We are living into those words of, you know, awoke, work to woke. We are living into that. And so I hope that, you know, as you're sitting here and you're thinking about your next steps, you're understanding that you've already taken a part of that first step. You're already in it. So I'll leave it there, but thank you so much for this incredible panel. Literally, I've had chills the entire time.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. Your voice is important too. We love to hear when you speak as well. It's beautiful. Thank you both for Teach America and what you guys are doing. That is, we commend you on what you're doing and how you impact change in your niche. I got it down. Tasi, you're on the other side of the state. Can you share a little bit of what's happening on the other side? I think, I don't know, did she? Yep, there she is.
Hey, sorry, wait, I'm on two screens, crap, hold on.
It's all right.
Hi everyone, my name is Tasiani Santos. I've been with Roca for 4 years now. Can everybody hear me okay? Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Can't see you though.
Can't see me? Hold on. Okay, can you hear me? Can you at least hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I've been with Roca for about 4 years. I started working with Roca in the front line, so I was working directly with youth. And what inspired me to come into this work was, you know, born and raised by immigrant families. I saw a lot of what the young men faced, that sense of being lost, that sense of not having, I had support and love of my family, thankfully, and I did not go through nearly half of what our young people face, but that feeling of not knowing who to reach out to for a FAFSA or for college. What is college? And so I think for me, it's just so interesting to see what these young people have to face on top of all the traumas. And I quickly got so drawn to this work, to frontline work and working directly with the youth for the first 3 years here with Roca. And then I realized that I was so passionate about the work that I kind of lost myself within it and wasn't able to take, it's like that saying where you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself. And so I sort of started to lose myself and realize I need to take a step back so that I can be productive to the youth, because they don't deserve anything less than that. And so, and again, we're talking about extremely traumatized young people, you know, that are in and out of the criminal justice system, that have seen horrible things at young ages, that, you know, systems have failed years prior to even coming here, prior to getting to Roca, but prior to even seeing them. And so that's where I realized, you know, in order for me to do this work and be effective, I need to know where I am as a person. I need to step back and step forward when it's appropriate so that I don't also cause more harm, right? Because I think what's important in DEI and all of this work is also checking in with ourselves, right? Knowing where we are, knowing when to speak, when not to speak, when to do, when not to do. And it's all very, very hard work. And so, and it's very consuming of the soul sometimes. And so I think it's important to check in with ourselves, because I think we make mistakes when we forget about where we are, and we become less impactful in that way. And I think that's all I'm gonna say. Thank you.
I didn't unmute. Thank you. Wellness. And it is impactful on the soul. Thank you. Those are my takeaways. Yes. And so we have to keep a healthy balance for us to be able to fight another day. We are on a fighting battle and we continue to fight. So thank you for sharing your journey. We are a respecter of time. I have not seen any questions come up. Please share your questions if you have any. If anyone else on the board, on the panel would like to speak, please share your thoughts. Again, the question is, what practical steps can individuals make to get involved in social justice? So we've been hearing that. But please, in our community that's on this line right now, on this call, please share any questions that you have or concerns. We're both, we don't mind, because this is what community building looks like. And we want to apologize for the glitching. That's something we'll work out next time, but welcome to technology. Usually we'd be in a room in a big circle, enjoying each other's presence, but welcome to COVID. And so we're okay. Next time, hopefully we will be able to see each other soon, but bear with the technology stuff. Any questions? Or anyone that wants to answer that question from the panel?
I would say, a lot of times when we consider this kind of work, DEI work, we always tend to think about it on this grand scale. But there's so much that we can do right at our own kitchen tables. There's so much that we can do in the conference room. We can do it right at the water fountain in the business office. Anywhere where we see injustice happening, where we hear whatever it is, microaggressions, where we hear or see this implicit, explicit bias, and we see these things happening in the community or wherever we are, it's in those moments that we have an opportunity to call that out or call them in, right? It doesn't have to be so grand. I mean, a lot of times in a lot of, conversations that we're having and these dialogues that we're having, there are people who are expressing, hey, this has been something that has been happening in my family for years. I don't know how to address it. And, our simple kind of answer to that is, well, when you hear it, just say something. You know what I mean? A lot of times people continue to do things or view things in a certain way because nobody has ever told them the truth about their viewpoints, right? So I think, a lot of times, man, it's not always, I got to go do this big grand thing. Sometimes it's just a conversation over dinner.
No, I would agree with that. So thank you, Brian, for saying that, first of all. For those of you that don't know, Brian and Natasha actually, gosh, I feel like it seems like 2 years ago, but it was just a few months before COVID. And they came in and Natasha interviewed every single one of our staff, and myself included. And then they constructed a whole, basically a circle around DEI, and they put up all these words, right? Microaggression and various other words that we were literally Googling as we were standing there. And, but it was great because it really opened up. I was, I don't have to tell you, being a white woman, being a white person, just in general, it's very uncomfortable having conversations about race. And it's very uncomfortable being uncomfortable. And one of the things I love about Roca is we live in the uncomfortability of being uncomfortable. So with that, I think we fostered a whole relationship among ourselves in the conversation. And I have a very tight-knit group. We're family here in Western Mass. And so you all are a part of our family now, so welcome. But with that, we do not shy away from conversations. And I really appreciated Natasha and Brian bringing that out, and I feel like COVID kind of ripped that away from us a little bit because we really haven't sat in a circle. We've been doing this Zoom world. But I think to continue to have those transparent conversations, and someone who is white being uncomfortable, and but I have to tell you, I moved from the uncomfortable to being comfortable about the conversation and understanding where my privilege is and how am I using my privilege to serve the community in which I'm serving. And I think that is the piece. And the other piece that I would have to say around this conversation is, again, I keep saying it, just listen, be, and be welcoming and knowing that I'm not going to get it right all the time, but ask and say, please help me when I need it. And if I'm saying something that's not appropriate, please let me know. So those are the things. So yeah, welcome family, and I love you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And it begins with asking. Part of one of the things is a lot of leaders are not asking and are afraid to hear what's really going on in their companies. Leslie said that the other day, is like sometimes the leaders in her company don't always want to hear what is going on in the company, right? Sarah has said it. I can keep going. Sometimes we don't want to really hear it. And so, Chris, thank you for taking that stance that it's uncomfortable, but it's something that needs to be done. Because we can't really take ground. We can't take new ground if we're staying in the same spot. And so we're running into our last half hour. We are not here to prolong it. I feel like we've done a great job. I think I would like to kind of run through last words. I don't see any questions.
I think there's just a statement in the chat. We might want to read.
Can you say that, Lakeisha? I didn't see it. Oh.
Absolutely, no worries. It says, continue to educate myself and continue to work to have the rest of the valley realize that they can make a difference and get involved in the community of Springfield and Holyoke. Thank you, Rob. Sharon.
Robin, thank you. Thank you so much, Lakeisha. And that's the thing, we have each other's back. If you just saw that, there's no power struggle in here. None of the panelists were having a power struggle. We are here to educate and love and support. This is a team, and this team is multicultural, multi-belief systems, multi-everything, right? We represent the gambit of what Springfield looks like in most parts. And I want to thank y'all for taking a risk. Some of the people that are on this panel, they just heard me say, you gotta come. And didn't quite know what they were doing, but they knew, they have it, they know it, and you do too. Robin, you have it, you know it, just do it. And so sometimes we get scared of what the unknown is, but it's taking a chance, and there's a whole surrounding of a whole community of us that will help and support you as you're stepping. So I want to thank you all to stepping out in faith and coming on. And for those that may have a question, that's why our contact information is there. Please reach out to us. We are willing to answer questions, help, support. You have all of us that have so many different kinds of skills and willing to help and support the growth. Your organization, yourself, family, we don't care. Growth is growth. But for last closing words, and then I'm going to pass it off to Chris. I would like the panel.
Before you close,
oh, go ahead, honey.
Thank you for moderating. Not easy, okay? And you did a fabulous job. I didn't get to introduce you because I was trying to get some water and you jumped on, but I wanted to share how fabulous you are, how important you are to the work that we all are doing, to my personal work, and you are now a sister to me.
Thank you.
And I count it a blessing to be in the presence of everyone who's on this panel in this community, born and raised here. But most of all, Natasha, you did a wonderful job moderating, and I just wanted to make sure I shared that tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. She's gonna bring tears to my eyes. I don't cry very much, But Lakeisha, love you. Awesome woman in many different ways. And so I'm going to ask you guys closing. I'm going to start in the same order. It's going to start with Sarah. What are a closing statement you would like to leave with our audience, our callers? What is something you would like to leave with them?
Lead with your heart. And I think know that you're welcome wherever you are in this process. Lakeisha talked about awake, to woke, to work. Wherever you are welcome. And, come and ask questions. And as Chris said, listen. I also want to thank Natasha. She has been my colleague for 5 years and has enriched my life so much by willing to engage in conversations about how we serve the community, how we serve each other, how we are as colleagues. So I welcome, please keep talking. It's an amazing experience.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. James. Oh, you're on mute.
First,
okay.
thank you for having me. Again, that word is ringing out with being intentional. I think we all have a purpose. We all were born with a gift, and be intentional on bringing whatever you bring to the table. Bring to the table because it makes a difference. I believe my brother, I think it was Scott, that said that it starts from either a conversation at the kitchen table or a conversation in the boardroom. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a gift. We're here for a reason. So if we just bring that to the table and be intentional on having your voice heard. Again, this panel was amazing. I'm very pleased and humbled to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, James. Next, Brian.
So one of the things that's near and dear to me in terms of any kind of work I'm doing is the Word of God. And so I think my parting words would be simply this, love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as yourself. A lot of the issues and systemic plights that a lot of peoples are having is because of a lack of love. You know what I mean? Perfect love casts out fear. Fear has torment. Love is not perfect in fear. So I think that if we would just be able to express love and have genuine love one for another, I think that we'd be able to tear down so many barriers. And so I would part that by just saying, love your neighbor as yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Love. So I'm loving on to Leslie.
Again, thank you so much for counting me in. I honestly don't know 100% what else I could add to this. I 100% echo everyone that has already brought up different things. If anything, I would encourage those to come to the table. I don't count myself as someone who makes that big of an impact, but I know I have a voice. And so coming to the table today, just to be a part of this conversation, it did something. For me, it may have done something for those listening, those who are going to listen. So don't be discouraged or count yourself out. Just come to the table.
Thank you. And thank you for joining the table. Thank you. And Lakeisha, last but not least.
Again, thank you so much for being here tonight with us and the invitation to share. Just as Leslie stated, I echo all of the sentiments that's been said already. And I'll simply add, faith without works is dead. So get involved. Don't be silent. Be an advocate in your way. Don't let anyone tell you what advocacy is. How you advocate, and be intentional.
Thank you. Before I let Chris close us out, I definitely want to thank the team. This was a team effort, and every great thing starts with just one idea, one pull together, one request, one friendship like myself and Sarah, one love like Leslie and I have known Leslie since she was 5-7 years old, something crazy like that. It's an honor to see our next generation build up to taking my place. I want you to take my place and be better than me. I want you to do more than I have done. And so if we all keep that collective mindset that it's bigger than us, and it will change. It will change. It's changing already. Today, from even the comments I'm watching in the chat, I'm blown away how many people were impacted that it really enjoyed it. And, us, we always like, how is it going to work? What is going to, and so know that we are super duperly excited. Like Ellie said, like, this is great and exciting for us because we just want to bring everyone to the table. So thank you for coming to the table today, but thank you for eating at the table. Because at the end of the day, it's about taking something away that feeds your soul and changes you forever. So I love you. I thank you. I'm going to pass it off to Chris. Here's the baton. Chris, thank you for leadership in here.
Absolutely. So I just want to say thank you again for your time tonight. What a privilege to be a part of this important conversation. And, thank you to, again, members of my managing board, Lakeisha and Natasha, for this. This is awesome. And, and bringing your strong, better halves to the table. Leslie and Sarah, thank you. Tassi, thanks for jumping in at the last minute. Appreciate it. All your back of the house stuff. And, Ellie and Tatiana, what a privilege to be in your presence. So thank you. And just please join us for our next webinar on May 19th, 6 to 7:30 on School to the Prison Pipeline. It's real, it's important, and we just so appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who kind of sponsored this, the DPH Gun Violence Initiative, and everybody. Coppage Consulting, 413 Kicks, BHN, Kingdom Building and Contracting, Teach for America, and Roca. And thank you to, the administration at Roca and, for really leading our organization in a great way around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, and more importantly, thank you for showing up for our young people every single day, to all the community partners. So that's it. So thank you, and we'll see you soon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.